So let's get started. Last part of the day, the panel. I thought about keeping kind of my part shorter than yesterday, in the sense of that we kind of outsource all the technical questions to you, because I think these are the questions that matter. These are the questions that are most interesting to the team. I'm sorry for that. But I will give an introduction, and then I would ask you to think about questions, prepare some, and let's have a really, really good Q&A. 2 years ago, you announced the Angular Renaissance. Since then, a lot has happened. A lot of new features. I think if I start listing them, we're going to sit here for a while. But this year, now NGD 2025, a lot more AI features. We listed them yesterday. GenKit, Google AI Studio, Gemini Canvas, LLM Text, and Angular MCP, and there's even more. And here's what I find really, truly remarkable. Usually when there's a lot of change, there's a lot of resistance to change. But, and this is the big but, when we look at the survey data that you have published from last year, you have 90% developer satisfaction. And I think we can feel that here at NGDE. Like it was really, really, what a beautiful energy. You have 79% of developers using the latest tools. So I think it's fair to say the Angular Renaissance is real. And now it's even AI powered. So this is where the question starts. And I think it's a few questions at once, so be prepared. And I would like to ask you, Jens, since you've been part of the Angular team since 3 years, what do you think has been kind of the key to this success for the Angular team?
Yeah, so we're very glad to have such a great and vibrant community. And that's been key to the success, to be honest. And I joined 3 years ago when we came out of the Ivy migration, like delivering Ivy and like moving everything there. And that slowed us down a bit. And then I think we had to catch up a little bit. And that's how we came to the Renaissance. And so there was the appetite for the features, there was the hunger for the features, and the willingness to try everything out and to experiment, to come along on the journey with us. And I think that really helped. The web is not finished. Like, that's what Alex keeps saying, that if we don't want movement in web frameworks, that means we think the problem of creating UIs on the web has been solved. And no, it has not been solved. There's still so many improvements, so many new things we can imagine with AI to happen. And yeah, I think that's why we all, despite it being like sometimes a little bit of a pain to upgrade, we all want to try the new things and we all want to try the new versions, because there's a better developer experience on the things you already do, and there's new things you can do with them.
Answer as well. And for me, one of the things that I've seen has been the biggest success for the community, for Angular, and the Renaissance and this like wave of Angular development just changing has been you and our connection to you. I feel like we've spent more time than ever listening, connecting, accepting feedback, accepting PRs, including developers and the community in our design decisions. Think about the RFC process. That is a relatively new process that you all have shared your feedback in detail when you like something or when you don't like it. All of that is so valuable. And we have been, I feel, at least, and you could tell me if this is wrong, I feel like we've been locked in, meaning just more connected with you than we've ever been. And having that open communication, that open dialogue has helped us to make the right choices for the community, because it's not based on only what we think, but it's also based on your needs. So I think that has a big influence on how we've gotten to where we are now.
I just want to add, I'm thrilled to see that it's not us pushing down your throat new changes. It's like you embracing the change we are suggesting, you loving it, and you asking for even more, actually.
And I asked this question with a hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda, I know you have the service coming up very soon. So what are your wishes to the community when the service is up? What do you want to know? Do you want to say something to the community to fill out the surveys, be part of the change?
So is the question, what do I want the community to, what do we want to say to the community?
I guess I want to give you an opportunity.
Oh, what do we want from the community?
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you what we want. I can tell you 100% what we want. All right, this is what, and we want you to do what you've been doing. So here's how you can help continue the momentum and continue the story. Keep not only using Angular, but be proud of that work that you're doing. You all build incredible applications that power some of the biggest organizations in the world. That's what you all do. You do that. That's not what we do. That's what you do. So talk about the work that you're doing. Work in public where you can. I'm not saying share your company's source code. Don't get fired, right? Like, don't get fired. But share the ideas and the problems that you're able to solve with Angular, because there's a reason that you're here, right? This is a beautiful weekend in Berlin. You could be out eating and having, tea and coffee and talking and sharing ideas, but you're here because you care about this project and you care about Angular. So talk about it. And another thing you can do, use the features and let us know what's working and what's not working. You really should believe that I've spoken to many of you, and a few people have come to me with problems that I don't know the answer to. And I asked one very simple thing. I said, message me with the same problem so I can go back to the team and explore these ideas. If you do that and take me up on that commitment, on that offer, we are going to share that feedback. You see, so your voice still matters. So continue to talk to us, continue to communicate, continue to let us know what you need, because we're here for the people. This is what we care about. Angular as a framework doesn't work without you. You see, you are the most important part of this whole story. So continue to be a part of the community, continue to talk to us, continue to use Angular.
I've got a question for you. Where can they share this with the team?
Oh, sure. Okay, believe it or not, I actually read all the comments on YouTube, like all of them. I read all the comments, not because I'm looking for I do want people to talk about how handsome I am. I do look for these comments, but they don't come as often as I like, which is fine. But I do read the comments, and I actually read the Twitter posts, and I do try to read the things when people tag us. I try to read the blogs. Quite a few of you have written books, and you've asked me to read your book, and I read your book, and I write your forwards. I am very keen to know what you're doing. So when you're talking to us online, when you're commenting on the GitHub issues, we're reading those things. So you can tag us on GitHub. You can create issues if you find something. Please do that. That is not a burden to us if you create a GitHub issue. It's not an insult, right? How could your petition for something that you need be an insult, right? So create GitHub issues. Tag us on Twitter. You can message me, and then I will answer at some point, but I will answer, okay? But we cannot debug your issues directly, so let's be a little bit mindful. But, that's how you can talk to us.
I just want to add, from just the technical part, give us your feedback on GitHub issues. Tell us about your use cases. We want to know what you can't do today or what you'd like to be improved in your experience. There's one thing I love when I work on the framework is improving what we call the DX, the developer experience. Tell me about your experience. Tell me, I want to hear your frustrations and how we could help improve that.
Yeah, and last thing, we run the yearly developer survey. It will come out soon, although soon has to be defined when soon is. We're probably not going to do it over the holidays, so if you don't do it very soon, it might slip into early next year. So one or the other, it will be it. And please fill it on top of everything else. Yeah.
In a recent article, you asked the question, what might an AI-first framework look like? Describe to us what is an AI-first framework first.
You want to start? Okay, I'll start on this one. In my mind, an AI first framework, well, that's a really hard question. I don't think anybody knows the true answer, but we're trying to figure this out, which is why we had the RFC, because we want to know, well, what are you doing, right? Well, how are you working with AI? And then what are you doing? And then we can start to take ideas from there and understand how we can influence the future of Angular. Because what we would love is that the tooling that you use, the AI tooling that you use, it works for Angular. We would also love that the code generated for Angular is performant, secure, accessible, builds consistently. All these things are really important to us. And so how do we get there? So how do we design a framework, and how do we design Angular to work in such a way? So that's what we're thinking a lot about, because we're thinking about where's the industry going to be? We don't want to be playing catch up over the long run with something like this, right? We want to be thinking strategically now to meet you where you're going to be in the future of work. And we want Angular to be ready. So that's why this is so interesting to us, and why we were asking for your feedback on, well, what are you building? How is it working? How are your integrations working with AI? What are your use cases? All this stuff is super interesting to us.
Quick addition, I want to say, we would love to make it as easy as possible for you to leverage AI to just make you more efficient. Lose less time, spend less time with the tooling, spend less time handling issues, but just be efficient at building. And if we can achieve that, then we'll be, yes, of course, an AI first framework.
Yeah, and then even more in the future, and we, as Mike said, we don't know what this looks like, but everyone now who tries to integrate AI in their app, they build a little chat, and you can ask about something which is related to your business, but that will probably not be it in the future. So integrating an LLM into your serving flow, into your application somehow, how can we make this better for you? And like, what are the new experiences users can have that are actually delightful in some way? And like creating these delightful experiences that weren't possible before. And like lots of people are trying things out, and we will take what sticks and what is actually good for users.
I know it's hard to predict nowadays. The future is changing fast and fundamentally. But still, I need a little bit more. What do you think, what aspects of Angular might change during the next?
I can tell you a little bit about one of the most interesting conversations that we're having. But before I say this, there is no commitment to a timeline. There is no commitment to a feature or an API, but I can tell you what we're thinking a lot about. So right now, as Jens mentioned, people just build a chat bot, right? And they say, okay, a little chat on the side. The chat can't really do anything. It can give you some information, but doesn't really give you functionality, right? That's the least interesting way right now, but that's the most common thing. But what about dynamic UIs that are generated on the fly to meet a certain need? See, that's interesting. That's a really interesting problem. So what does it look like that a person could do a search for, let's say, some specific data in a dashboard, and the UI is assembled in real time based on what they asked for, not a predefined UI? See, that's interesting. So how do you do that, right? So how do you make Angular the best place to do that type of work? And how do you create the next generation of experiences where users are treated to this type of features? Because that is a non-trivial problem. So sure, you can do dynamic component where you already have it, designed, but what about the ones that are not designed, that using LLMs, it will figure out the pieces to build? For example, probably in 2 hours from now, because I'm still on US time in my brain, I'm not sure, I'm floating in space right now due to jet lag. So Devin from the Angular team is showing an example of how he's experimenting with that on today's live stream, right? So this is a really interesting thing. And so that's when we think about like future, like AI. So even what Jens mentioned, the work of building user interfaces is not complete. We have a whole new horizon ahead of us. And I think that we're in a very unique position as engineers right now to shape that future. Because I just talked about a UI where it's assembled based on the user query. What about a UI that adapts to a user's needs based on accessibility? So what if your UI is already, if the person's already using a large point font, a large font. What if you could detect something like that? I say, oh, we're going to just magnify the whole UI on purpose with meaning, not just a zoom that could break on breakpoints, right? What about color blindness? There's so many things. There's so many interesting things that we can build now. So that's what we're thinking about is like, okay, what does the future of user interfaces look like? And then how do we position Angular in a way that that vision can become a reality? So really exciting conversations. We're doing a lot of thinking. Super clear, a lot of thinking. But definitely watch Devin's live stream, watch the replay, because he's gonna show just an early experiment on this really cool app that he made where I don't even want to spoil it for you. It's just a really cool e-commerce app that dynamically builds all of the UI and even features routing. Like, what does that even, what does routing mean with a dynamic UI, right? Like, it's such an interesting problem. And I think we are all, not just Angular team, but all of us, we're the people to solve it.
I want to thank Mark for the short answer.
Yeah, I think he said it all.
I talk a lot.
But it's a good answer.
In a world with like so many unknowns, as you described, how do you balance the long-term vision that you guys have with the ability to pivot quickly when the industry shifts so abruptly?
Yeah, let me take that. So my talk was a bit more the theoretical side, that what planning cycles we have. None of that is ever set in stone. And actually moving to, hey, we have to create rules files, and then we had to put some people on the web content scorer because we were like, how do we create a rule file? We don't know what's the best thing and how we get the best code out of it. That had to go very, very quickly because we saw the need. And yeah, we have to deal with it. Like, plan is plan, but then the plan can change, and we can quickly decide what can we stop, what do we need to continue, what can we continue later, and which people can we get. So being dynamic is the key, and trying to be faster. And like, I think it's always good to have a plan because it gives you like a stability. Like, if nobody tells me what to do, I can follow the plan. But if there's something coming up, don't follow the plan.
In this context of NGDE 2025, I think it's going to be my last question before we move to the Q&A, because I think everybody would enjoy a long Q&A where we can go through a lot of questions. I have a lot of technical questions, but I hope you have also some. Otherwise, I jump in. And the question goes to each one of you. If there's one thing, also in the context of the conference, of the many amazing talks that we heard here, if you want developers to understand one thing about Angular's future, what is it?
That the future is bright. And I really do mean that. I'll give a very short but very honest answer. I've worked in a lot of industries over my career. I've had a 20-year career. Long before developer relations, I was a senior software engineer. I've worked in finance. I've worked in healthcare. I've worked in education. I've worked in some of the most demanding jobs that I could, environments that I would think of. The group of people that I work with on the Angular team are some of the smartest, most compassionate, most thorough, most dedicated engineers I've ever worked with. This is the best job I've ever had. No, yeah, sure. That's for you all. Seriously. And me knowing that these are the people that I get to work with is why I say the future is bright, because we are not resigned to letting Angular languish. That is not our plan at all. We're bright-eyed and just motivated to see how far can we take this thing. So that's what I would want you to know about the future of Angular, that the future is quite bright.
I want to share the same feeling as I've been in tech for 12, 13 years now. I'm very fortunate to be working with so many bright people, and gives me the confidence. So there might be some uncertainty, but when you're surrounded with smart people, you say, okay, I'm confident that we'll go somewhere. And everything changes now a lot with AI. I'm just getting confident that with these people, we'll go far. Oh, yeah.
So what was really surprising for me, because I haven't been to a community conference in 3 years, But I've seen the passion in the team for Angular, and I've seen how everyone cares, and people were like, did they actually like, we fight sometimes when it's like something we have to do for Google and something we could do for the community. Like we literally internally discussed this. Like, no, we can't let the community be behind, etc. So there's this deep passion. What I didn't realize is that this passion goes both ways, that it also comes from the community. I mean, I've seen it a little bit online, but it's so different in person that like, everyone cares where the framework goes. So that was kind of my takeaway. Maybe the only people who care more about the Angular framework than the team are all of you, the users of the framework.
Round of applause, please. So now to the Q&A part. I hope you have many questions. Who wants to start? Please.
Dave's son or Mini Dave? Mini Dave.
Micro is not working. Second one. Hi.
Oh, no, yeah. Hi, I'm Vinny, by the way. I have a question. It's a little more general, but do you guys have the feeling that frameworks like React and Angular, they're like swimming in close directions? They're coming like close in some things, like when I see signals, when I see stuff. Do you guys see something in the future that actually they work together, or that we don't have frameworks anymore because we have all the stuff that we have for frameworks actually embedded in TypeScript, JavaScript, directly in browser, and then the people that are working right now in frameworks like you guys, you are going to work like directly for TypeScript, JavaScript, for something that is like directly in the browser. Do you guys see something like this, or?
I was already asked this question today, so I can give a little bit of insights. The problem is when you load something on what we call the platform, which is for you the JavaScript, is things go very slow to land in the platform. Like, for example, we've seen proposals to have signals, to have observable implemented in the platform. This is a work that takes usually 1 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And implementing it into a framework takes a few months. And the difference between the platform and a library or a framework is that you can introduce breaking change. Having breaking change make things evolve way faster. So maybe when things settle after a large number of years, maybe you can land them in the platform. But before that, you will have them via libraries, via framework, because the iteration is way faster. And the fact that you can do breaking chains helps a lot. And there is also a movement today at the platform level to say, okay, we want to implement less to allow more flexibility into what you can do. So I think you do not want to have it into the platform itself. Mm-hmm. And for example, we see already today discussion for a JSX 2.0. So if JSX was supported by the browser, that would be a major breaking change. It would probably prevent the evolution of JSX itself. I'm talking about even if it's not something about Angular, gives you insight on why you might not want things to land into the platform.
I will let the freedom,
Yeah, but for things like signals, observables, after several years, we see that we converge on some kind of architecture that would be shared by every framework. That would be great that it can land, and we have some kind of optimization with better performance for things that are shared between the frameworks.
Yep, thank you.
I want to add quickly. So I do think we see frameworks kind of moving in the same direction, at least in the problems that have been solved in the past. And that's good. And I think that might move us at least into a direction of better interoperability, better ecosystem where you can like mix and match and put different tools together. So this is something we're excited about. I also think there's new problems to solve, and it's great if like different teams work on trying to solve these new problems in different ways, and then we see what works out. Yeah, and then someone pivots and someone changes direction maybe.
I want to add, diversity is very important to help us as a bigger web front-end community to understand what is the right solution. The first one might be good, but not the best. So having different possibilities, different alternatives to understand what's good, what's not, is also very important, yes.
Another question?
Hi, this is Nikos. Thanks for the panel so far. Earlier, Mark posed a question and the question was, what's the future of user interfaces? And that made me think, we're living now in a time where we're seeing increasingly browsers, AI-powered browsers navigating the web on a user's behalf instead of the user. So you have user face interfaces potentially which are not seen by users, but still are being used. So is that something that, I don't know, keeps you up at night? Do you think about that? Do you have a take on it? Does Google have a take on it?
I have a take on it. This is not representing Google or the Angular team, but this is my opinion about this. My mother-in-law does not do any online banking. None. She does not have the mobile app on her phone. What that let me know is that there is going to be a community of people who will not choose a technology choice, and we'll still have to serve those users. And she's one person, but how many hundreds of thousands or millions of people who either choose not to or are unable to engage in that way. So I don't think that user interfaces will go away traditionally, like in total. Because think about someone with who only has access to the internet on a handset, like a smartphone, but it's not even a very powerful smartphone. Should we forsake all of those users and not build for those people? The biggest success that we have is to build for everyone. So do I think there is a world where there will be AI browsing? To some degree, yes. I think that there will be some times where it'll be fantastic, where I'm like, yo, I do not want to go and book this flight. Just book the flight for me. You already know my preferences. But then there'll be some things I'm like, no, my bank account, like, I'm not, no way. No way, right? Like my mother-in-law, like no way. But I would say this, though. I would say this. When everybody was walking around saying that their mobile apps got hacked, she wasn't worried, right? So there's more to the story, is what I always like to tell people. Ask yourself a very important question. What don't I know? What am I not thinking of? When you're just engineering in general, always ask that question. What don't I know? So what don't we know about AI browsing? What are we missing? Right? And then what are the benefits of it? So don't toss it out, but don't over-index, I guess is what I would say.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank the team for the effort, and I have two questions. The first question is about adopting of native web API. Like you already wrote the Angular animation, and we have also something like observable API. Do you in the future may drop also ASGS and also adopt more of the future from the native web API? The second question is about before AI, we optimize the website application for SEO. So the result from Google search will display our website first. And yesterday, when I attended another meetup in Berlin, I saw that people is starting to buy to use the thing from the ChatGPT search. So it means that they will ask for something like your mom, Mark, my mom, she didn't know anything about research for buying some product. And she will ask the ChatGPT about something like she will want to buy some new toy for my girl, for my daughter. And she will ask ChatGPT will return a list of the company, so we will display for her. And how do in the future that we need to adapt the Angular, the component that so it can be so in the result of the result from the ChatGPT or something like that?
Yeah, great question. So the question just about with the changing landscape of how people are searching for information, searching for products, people are increasingly not using traditional browser search. They're using ChatGPT search or like AI search. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really interesting for Angular. In the experiments repository of the Angular repo, there's a new example in there that's, there's a PR for an example from Jan from our team, which is showing MCP UI, right? Which is this idea that you could, from an MCP server, return the UI in your chat stream of actions that you can take. So we're actually already experimenting with that as well, because we're thinking about, well, how does Angular show up in these new spaces? The markets is just evolving and the tools are changing, and this example repository, this experiment that we're doing is an example of where we're thinking about this now. And this isn't something that we're going to wait for 5 years to figure out. Like you can go and see the code now of, here's an example of MCP UI in Angular. Now it's only an experiment because we will still have to make sure for optimization, one of the things that we tell you all, and you know for one, why you choose Angular, is for scalability, right? Scalability is really important. So what does the scalability story look like for that? But I think that's still unknown, which is why I'm not committing saying, oh, go download this repository. Just telling you that we're thinking about it and experimenting with that exact thing. Yeah, great question.
And for the first part of the question, if I understood correctly, it was about dropping APIs that were using RxJS or RxJS more globally. So the global idea that we had when it was announced already 1 year, 18 months ago, that ideally we would want to remove RxJS as a strong dependency of Angular. This is a two-step story. The problem with the RxJS is that we know its learning curve is kind of steep. So ideally, we would want to remove it from the minimal learning path to learn Angular. That being said, we love RxJS also. So we want to make it a first-class citizen. And you can see this already today with what we call the RxJS interop. For example, to signal, to observable, we have take until destroy, things like this. So we want to make it explicit which APIs are for compatibility with RxJS. So yes, we want to make it optional in a more or less distant future. So what we do today is the new API we design, we make it quite explicit. We do not use RxJS by default, but provide the right interop for you to use it with all the patterns that you already love and are performant with. So no, we won't drop it at all, totally, but we will make it easier for newcomers to learn it. And as I already said yesterday, by default, you will probably prefer to use signals and use observables wherever you think it is a better fit.
Thank you.
Great questions.
Hi, Alex here. I couldn't quite decide for one question specifically, but I would like you to choose what you want to answer, rather. So is there anything within Angular, like any APIs or packages, CDKs or whatever, that you think is underrated and more people should know about? And the second question would be, if you could wish for something that would land in terms of forms that is not yet here or that is not coming with signal forms, what would that be? Thank you.
So let me only answer the first one. I think two of the most, and so if they ask me for my magic moment of the conference, it's that what I call the underrated features, which I don't see enough press about, don't see enough blog posts about, etc. They were all mentioned here in the conference by others, not by us. So I think Web Code Gen Score is one. I've seen it yesterday on the AI stage. It's something more people should try out and see. If you use AI-assisted development, you can use this to improve your own workflow. If you write a library, you can probably use it even more. We'd like other framework authors to use it. But so we need people to talk about it. And so I'm really happy that some people talk about it. Please talk about it more. And the other one is Angular Aria. I was really happy to hear about that one today. I think it's severely underrated. Obviously, it's not even yet out. So I'm not too surprised, but I really want that team to have a big push. Like when it comes out, I want everyone to talk about it, because it's something that's not so amazing and easy, like, hey, I need this in my app tomorrow, but it's something more fundamental.
Yeah, I want to add, we will have a set of components in Angular Area, I think 9 components and directives, and we plan to have more in the short future.
Yeah.
And can you repeat the first question?
The second question is anything that's not in signal forms yet.
Anything that's not a lot of things. If you remember in the slides, typically we want to have. So it already landed on Wednesday. The better type safety. We want async validators. Of course, we need some documentations. What else? Performance improvements. The optimizations that we want to land on the signals themselves. What else? There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen still. I need to publish my slides still. Yeah, it's just a slide. So what's work in progress?
Directive composition AI, API. I feel like that is the most underrated feature that we worked really hard on, and it is just so underrated. I think it's incredibly powerful. So I would say that with signal forms, I think I'm just ready for it to come out in general and for people to be able to use it and to get feedback.
Next question.
Thank you, Michael. Hi. Once again, coming back to AI, I would be interested in I would say, more generic answer, high-level answer. You already addressed some topics, areas where all the brilliant minds of the Angular team and the company that funds you with Google, who is quite into that, we already tackled the area of assistance for coding with all the best practices, rule files, and so on. We tackled the part of dynamic UIs that use LLMs to give the user better runtime user experience, finding stuff, and so on, like Devin showed us, for example. Maybe we can think of AI integration in the CI/CD process. Is there another area? You mentioned even the UI, the MCP-powered UI, right? Is there another area on the high level where you would say that's an additional category where we are investigating, where we are thinking of providing support for Angular?
So what would the other area be? So I can tell you for me, I am really interested in people using AI as an API more to do those delightful experiences that, like Jens mentioned. Like, I don't see enough of that at all in the wild. I think that AI is such a transformative or transformational technology, and the best thing that we can generate is code and images. I find it to be so fascinating. Like, that's all we've been thinking about is code and images, when the potential for what we can build with AI and have AI do to serve humanity is really there. So I want to see more of that from the Angular side. I want to see the Angular community use it to where they're making API calls to do something really beautiful, do something really good to serve people. And I think that's a really interesting space. There's a lot of opportunity through code gen, not code gen, the Gen Kit. I couldn't think of the word. So many labels. Through Gen Kit, through Firebase AI Logic, through AI SDK. I don't care what you use. Just build something great. Like, that's what I want to see more of. Just build more great things that are powered by AI and go beyond just generating funny images. Those are great. Baby talking videos are great, but what could we really be doing? That's what I'm really interested in.
Thank you.
So I have one more thing, which I think will be a massive topic, which is AI security. And I think there is also a lot of work ahead of us as a framework, and we probably don't even know what kind of work. So as we all use AI more, AI security is like at the forefront. And luckily, we have like super great teams in Google working on AI security. So I'm sure, like, once we tackle this problem, we can reach out to this team and we can like learn from them, and we can integrate some of the best findings in Angular. So that's one thing. The other thing is literally, I don't know, because like, think back at January, like how many things you couldn't do this beginning of the year. And like, even code generation wasn't that great, to be honest, in January. And like, so I don't know what we can do in 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's a good one as a cross-cutting concept for all the AI-powered areas, right? Security. Yeah.
And also more generally into AI, I want to say that there are some areas that we need to explore, like how do we build dynamic AI, dynamic UIs based on things that we would get from AI agents, like in terms of you builders of application. And that's one of the questions we ask in the latest AI IFC that we open, is that what use case do you want to address? What are the use cases you have for in your application for AI, and how can we help you build dynamic UIs depending on what AI could give you as an answer?
Thanks a lot to all of you.
Any other questions? You're going to be next.
All right, the short one. When we can expect signal integration for Angular Router?
You already know the answer. We do not commit. And the answer, we would love it too, of course. But it is something we are already somehow exploring, but the fact that we cannot commit on dates because we release on fixed dates, this is the only answer we can honestly give. And you will see when you see some PRs around this. But definitely, we would love more signals in the router. So saying we want this.
Hi, thank you for that discussion so far. So out of curiosity, you probably have use cases for Angular in mind that most of us don't usually come across, but that still shape your idea of what like features Angular should support. Can you share a little bit about the unusual use cases for Angular that will shape the future of it as well?
Sure, the unusual use cases that shape Angular, and this is really interesting just because of where we work. So Google Cloud Platform is one of the largest Angular apps in the world. And what they need to deliver and perform at their scale is incredible. Like some of these use cases, we're like, we didn't even think about that. It wasn't something that we were focused on. And they're like, well, can we have this? Because we need it for this very specific reason. And so those things have to be taken seriously. And we have to think about, okay, well then how can we fit it for their use cases, but also make it good for you as well. So that's one of the unusual use cases. It's just some of the demands of what happens with some of the internal applications that are very large that need different features, right? I can't say what they are publicly, of course, but that definitely has something to do with it.
I would give a broad answer. Have you ever looked at the DOM when you go on random websites? If you look at the DOM, there is ng version attribute on every Angular app. And I like, because I'm curious to see whenever I go to a website, hey, what's the technology behind it? Yeah, I'm a weird guy, I know. And I discovered a lot of airlines, for example, use Angular a lot. Also learned yesterday that a lot of German brands that have Angular in the dashboard, in the cars. So I was surprised that it's not only used on the web, but actually also in some embedded devices, which is... I thought it was surprising.
Yeah, I thought of the same thing, that there's different user interfaces that go beyond the traditional web. And I think even of something like Gemini CLI, which is ASCII, and maybe that could use some kind of DOM as well. And yeah, it's like all of these things need frameworks as well. And there's different UIs. We don't think about cars as a good one. Who knows what kind of AI devices they come up with? Like if they have any UI, maybe he'll have Angular running in his glasses. Who knows? But like, yeah, different form factors, maybe.
Another question?
Hi, it's me again. I also asked a question yesterday. My name's Dewey. Hey. This question is, it stems from Signal. I understood that Signal was built so that it's easier for people to get into Angular. But with the advent of AI and how it helps us learn and it breaks things down for us, how do you think that changes your decision in the future? Like, would it, you know, because AI helps you understand by, you can just give it the code, you ask it a simple question, it gives you answer in human language. So how does that impact, do you think, the decision to make things easier to understand? Because the tool is so much better now.
I'm going to answer your question with a question that I asked to the engineering team. If all things are equal, why would you choose Angular? And that is a very hard question to kind of say because, like you said, and Michael, he also alluded to this, you know, like the way AI will eventually generate applications and do all these things, you know, how much will we need to know, right? And we don't know the answer to that. Nobody knows the answer to that. But if all things are equal, if I can build by just asking, and I can build an entire application by just asking, why would you want the thing to be built to use Angular? So the reason I'm bringing this question up is because that is how we're deciding what we choose, the directions we go, because that's one of the factors, not the only factor, but that's one of the factors. I want the answer to be, I want Angular because it is secure, it is scalable by default, right? Secure and scalable. If I don't care about and performant, of course, right? Those three pillars I think are really interesting to me as a answer to that question. Because there are things that we've built that are not available in other frameworks that will lead to better performance. Think about incremental hydration. I want models to leverage things like incremental hydration in their generated app. But is that available everywhere? No. So if all things are equal, meaning we can build any type of application by just asking or prompting, why choose Angular? And so those are the types of things that we still have to decide about as a team. We have to figure out how do we make sure that the answer is compelling. It is not an easy question. It's actually a quite challenging question to think about for the future.
Oh, you want to? Please.
Yeah, I have another thing I want to say. So you asked kind of about like how Signals was perceived as a more ergonomic API. How do we see this now when LLMs play a big role? And actually, that's also a good thing because we still think there's a future for ergonomic APIs. Humans will use them and LLMs will use them. And interestingly enough, I talked about user studies this morning, but what we figured out is we could kind of shorten the cycle. We probably still need to do user studies, but when we design a new API now and we have like 2 or 3 alternatives, we can ask an LLM to behave like a web developer and try to work with these new APIs. And they give us similar insights than users give in the user study. Like, okay, they struggle maybe with different things. Like, okay, LLMs don't care about boilerplate, while users care a lot about boilerplate. But we know that. But other things like, is an add better here or is a hash better here? Surprisingly, you get similar answers. And they can kind of explain it. So we can shorten the cycle, get some better insights before we start the user study and make even more ergonomic APIs that way.
Quick addition, sorry. Also, if we make it, we create easier pattern for developers, it will be also easier for LLMs. Basically, LLMs will tend to behave as you, to think a bit as you, to generate the same kind of code that you would write. So if we make it easier, like with the signals, it would be easier to read, but also for the LLM to generate, etc. So it's just better for everyone in this case.
Another question.
That's all.
Don't be too shy.
I was personally quite interested to hear about Angular Aria, but it seems to be a bit of a mystery of there's a PR that you can look at and you can kind of see the directives and components that are coming with that. But I was kind of hoping that you could comment on maybe when we can expect some more documentation on how to actually use the library.
Oh yeah, documentation is currently in progress. And to give a bit more context, what exactly Angular Aria is and what's its situation between the CDK and Angular material. So you could say that Angular CDK is just basic building bricks to build components or to build some behaviors. Like imagine on the CDK you have the directives that would allow you to have to implement easily drag and drop. Then you would have in the Aria, you would have some more advanced component with behaviors and also accessibility in mind. Like imagine an autocomplete. You want to have to start your own autocomplete. You won't have to implement all the behaviors. This Angular Aria will provide it to you, and you just add the colors, let's say. And if you don't want to style or you want to use Angular material out of the box, when I say material, the material style out of the box, you can reach directly to Angular material and you have something that is styled that works out of the box, and that's easier for you. So Aria probably fits perfectly into all the companies, all the projects that want to build their own language system, design system, I mean, and without having to tweak too much the style of Angular material.
Yeah, and I want to stress again that yes, you will have documentation by stable. And as I said, during the RC period, it's like one of the things we're like, okay, documentation needs to be there. But I think documentation will not be enough. There's so many things we imagine, like having showcases, galleries, etc. Will probably not make it for the November release. But it's all things we're thinking about because that will really showcase what Angular Aria can do.
And also, I know that a lot of people look for topics to blog about. That's a great one. Yeah.
Do we have another question? Yes.
Hi. I know no timelines, no promises, but could you maybe share some of the current state about the selectorless feature?
Oh, selectless.
Good question.
Only if you can. So
I can't. Yeah, I can share about this. Well, because I've had this conversation. Here's the higher level idea. We did start exploring this, and we will continue to explore it, but it turns out to be also just a non-trivial change. It sounds like a trivial change. And for those who don't know what selectorless is, it's the idea that you would only have to import the component class, and then you'd be able to use that component class in your template versus having to define a selector. And then, there's a little bit of indirection that you have to do, another cognitive leap you have to make. So how does the class relate to the selector? How are those things, all these problems, right? So this idea is that we do something more similar to React, where you import the class once and then you can use it in the template. This is just a non-trivial change. It's just non-trivial. We thought it might be quicker because we were really excited about it when we were talking about it. Even last year, we were talking with maybe more confidence than we should have. Yeah, because we thought it was easier to do than it was. And we got into it and like, oh, wait, now we have to reapproach it. And then we have to also compare that to what are the really important things that have to happen to make you all successful. Does that rank in the same level of other things that we could ship that to make you successful, you productive, and make you happy at work? And so those are all the parts of the equation.
Also to give some technical insights, like, yeah, selectorless, when you understand what it is, you say, okay, that looks an easy change, etc. And then when you start designing things, it's like, okay, selectorless, it's a bit, let's say that's inspiration from what we see in GSX. And GSX, for example, when you do React, Preact, Solid or whatever, you don't have what we call the host component. The host component is the element you see in the DOM that's represented today by your selector. And when you work on selectorless, you're like, yeah, does it also pull the topic of hostless? And the answer is yes, maybe. And this is part of the investigation that we still need to do. And because the impact is way larger than we initially thought, this is why we need a little bit of time to see where we're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really good answer. And it kind of fits in where I said when complexity of a problem goes up and the time it takes to make it goes up, the stackering kind of goes down, even if it's the same importance. And while we would still, actually our stackering is only by priority, but we still have like a kind of size and how long it would take to implement. But then we grab things that are easy to implement, and we can only grab one big thing, for example, and not work on, if we only worked on yellow projects, like we wouldn't have to have a release in 6 months.
Do we have another question? Yes.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say I quite enjoy the pace in which Angular is moving forward, but I do have a lead architect coming from a native JavaScript background, and he's a bit concerned, to kind of put it like that. Especially with when Angular moves forward, for example, adopting standalone. He is concerned that at some point there will come the time when Angular is dropping the ng module support, for example. Like there are several things like that, which makes him a bit uneasy about all the use of Angular. Luckily, it was a decision made way before he joined, so we are kind of stuck with it in a good way. But yeah, as there are a lot of features every 6 months, what is your approach to ensure that we all don't have to refactor the application every 6 months?
I'm not sure you need to refactor your application every 6 months. So basically, most of the API we introduce are what we would consider a Belzer alternative, but we did not deprecate, for example, the decorator inputs, outputs, the view query, thing like this. We're just bringing you new APIs that we think you prefer. So you don't have to refactor. And also there's a falsehood that often circulates, is that we only ship features every 6 months. No, we ship features every minor release, but we ship breaking changes every major release. So we follow very closely the same version, but but we only ship the breaking changes. So what's only important that you will need to take care of is the breaking changes that we ship every 6 months.
But to be clear, though, about the breaking changes, we actually make all of our really significant changes opt-in. So when we released when we released standalone, NG modules, like, it were optional, but you never had to switch to standalone, right? Like, it didn't stop you from enjoying other features. So this is our greatest gift and our greatest burden in some ways, is that we're always thinking about our backwards compatibility story and bringing everybody forward with us.
Yeah, and there's another reason which we talked about in small, but we didn't bring so much up. So, for example, control flow, we did deprecate the old one now because our migration story is so good and it works very well. And why do we know this? Because anytime we do a deprecation, we also have to do that deprecation within the Google code base. And we have 4,000 Angular apps in the Google code base. And when we deprecate, actually our team has to do that. So unless we have an automatic migration that works well, we have to manually do that work, and it must be worth it for us. If it's worth it for us, it's probably worth it for you as well, if we have to do it manually. So that will happen very seldomly. So NG models will only go once we go through the work of ripping out NG modules in Google.
Which is the kind of thing that today our stance is like probably won't happen, because we know that it's the same way for Zone.js. Yes, in v21, zoneless is the default, but we know that realistically, we will never get rid of Zone.js based apps, because they're almost everywhere, and we can't migrate, like you said, more than 4,000 apps inside Google. So realistically, we will support things that already are here, but if we can provide you something to help you migrate and help us migrate, yeah, you can be sure we will ship it.
Do we have another last question?
Yeah, Mike, why are you so handsome?
If there's no more question, I think if I may summarize the general sentiment, we, the community, we have a lot of questions. The Angular team has a lot of questions. We live in times of many unknowns. And in times like these, communication is key. So use the opportunity to take part in the survey, write or make comments on YouTube. Don't forget to compliment Mark. Communication, communication, communication. Because I think this general sentiment will stay with us. Technology is just accelerating. And I think in this kind of general context, go to meetups, talk to people, share knowledge, and this is what we're doing here. So thank you so much for being here.